Hi everyone! Today we're going to be discussing aftermarket parts. Aftermarket parts are parts that aren't manufactured by the factory, aka they are not OEM. This can be anything from cars, motorcycles, bicycles, almost anything mechanical. Unfortunately, I bought an aftermarket magazine from eBay, which I thought was of good quality according to the comments and reviews. Unfortunately, I got one that's not up to spec or is not an exact copy or replica. It doesn't feed right, and so the gun will jam when I use this magazine, which can get dangerous. So today we're going to be taking a look at the differences and the fixes and make this work for my favorite persuader, the Colt 1903 Pocket Hammerless. Okay, before we start taking a look at the aftermarket part here, I'm going to show you a few of the differences. So this is a Colt 1903 Pocket Hammerless, and this is the stock OEM piece here. You can see the bluing is already finished. Well, not finished, but there's a lot of it that's been disappeared. There's a stamping here that says caliber 32 ACP Colt, and there's a few markings here where they were connected together. This is the aftermarket piece, which a lot of the bluing is on. You'll see that it's missing the markings on the bottom edge here compared to the other one, but I bought it because it said caliber 32 Colt on it, which is pretty good for an aftermarket. You can see here, not as clean, but decent. And it looks like it might even be upside down compared to the original, which is kind of funny. They do both hold 32 ACP, it's just that you can see how smooth this action is. Follower is really smooth on that one. This one is tight. Doesn't even come back up. You gotta force it past that spot. Yeah. So we're going to smoothen that out, and hopefully that'll fix a lot of problems. There are some problems on aftermarket parts that you really can't fix. You can see, make sure we're not loaded there. If I put this in, this is the OEM part. There's a little wiggle room, but it's mostly solid. It's worn in and fits exactly with this gun. The aftermarket part will fit in also. You can see it doesn't snap into place as well, and you can see that it's really loose. There's even a tiny gap you can see on the edge there. Let me show you the original one. See, that gap has disappeared. It's lined correctly, I guess you could say. And the aftermarket part. Anyways, let's if this takes apart the exact way this one would, then it should be no problem. First thing we're going to do is push the follower down so that we can hold the spring and take apart the magazine. The way I'm going to do this is I'm going to stick a rag on top probably to hold it. Get one of these tools, stick it down to push the cam down, or the follower. And push it down like so. And we're just gonna hold some tension on that spring. I'm using a brad nail through the hole there. Okay, now you can see it doesn't come up all the way. Do a little pounding, and that follower should just come right out. As you can see, it doesn't. As you can tell, I had to pull it out to actually yank it out. Now this spring holds tension in there, So when you take this part out, you're going to want to hold the top of the magazine. We're pulling that out. There we go. Wow. And there's the spring. Note that the top on this one is has a little curve to it. The bottom is smooth. So that's how you take it apart. Now we're going to mess with the follower first, because that's where the problem is. Put it back together and see what happens. Okay, because it's not correctly sliding up and down inside the magazine, I'm going to give it a little sanding on the edge and then polish it a little with the Flitz polish there. So not a lot, just a little bit, you know, just a little to get it off. I'm putting it against a sanding block here, or a straight edge, so that we can keep it uniform somewhat. Smooth that out a little bit. You don't want to go in a curve or create any alignments there. You want to just take off enough to slide up and down smoothly. Just like that. Give it a little polish. Hopefully that smoothens it out even more. And hopefully that will smoothen it out even more and give us more of a chance to have a smoother action. Alright, so I'll polish the whole thing. Alright, so I'm just going to smoothen that out and polish it a little more. Then I'll cut back and see what more I did here. After polishing the sides of the follower, you can see that we're going to take a look at the body of the magazine, and I noticed there's a few parts or areas where it's actually different in form than the original. You can see that right there. The top lips of this is kind of bent in. This one is dead straight. That keeps the projectile from actually coming out, and it actually jams in that spot. I brought some snap caps here. We're going to see how it feeds after I'm done doing all the fixes, and hopefully it all feeds in correctly. But we'll try to get that part exactly like this part here. Alright, so the way we're going to do it is we're going to use a straight edge or a rod to kind of curl that up. So I'm going to first try it out with this, because I'm a little lazy to get a screwdriver or something, and kind of bend it up there. Okay, so fixing that little problem there, to get that even with this, we're going to have to use a flat head and kind of pry it to get it there, to get it right. Alright, since I'm taking you through the process here, the flathead did not work. I can get the leverage, but I'm kind of disforming it. So I got my Leatherman out here and we're gonna use some pliers. This is probably the best method to do it. And to straighten it out enough to get the shape close to what we need it to be. I'll show you the results of my labor. Okay, so I got it as close as I could to the matching measurement of the OEM and the aftermarket part. You can also see that the aftermarket part has longer lips. You could see that. The lips on this part are longer than the OEM here. We'll see how that affects everything else. Like most machinery, any little thing can cause a big thing. So, yeah, be careful. But if I need to adjust it again, we'll do that. But it does stop the follower, as you can see, which is what you want, so that the tension doesn't come out. The spring tension doesn't just shoot it out. I'm going to polish the edge of this and hopefully get a smoother reaction from this spring. This spring feels kind of low quality though, but that's what you get. So after I do that, I'll put it back together and we'll feed some snap caps through and hopefully it functions correctly. Alright, so putting it back together, I'm going to leave some of the polish on the edges of the spring there, so when it functions up and down, it'll actually create a smoother action, hopefully. But without further ado, feed this back in to the magazine here. As you can see, it needs, there is some tension there. So, okay, so to put this back together, take the spring, kind of fit it in there into the mag. And I want to get your third hand ready here. It's a frustrating process, guys. Or it can be. You gotta make it more methodical than anything to justify, I gotta push it up against my body here, to justify making it somewhat methodical. Alright, so as you can see, there you go, I got a pin through and the spring is being held right here. Next you just want to put this follower on. Already tell the action's a little smoother, I guess. Kind of take this, release the spring, release the hound. Now you'll see the spring is a little messed up on the inside, which means you gotta fix it to make it work right. I need the tool for this. There we go. So you can see that's way smoother than it was originally. Much smoother. Look at that. Okay, So now we're going to do a functional test. For this functional test, we're going to put the snap caps in, 32 ACP. As you can see, it's holding in place and feeding up. We'll compare it to the OEM piece. Still feels a little better. You can see that they are both sticking out at about the same angle. But that's a lot better than it was. It doesn't stick. So when placing this in persuader, it should pop out when I charge the firearm. Alright, so I'm gonna shoot. This is the OEM. You can see, shoot. Oh, okay, that one I messed up. I changed the angle, but I know it feeds through. Okay, this is the aftermarket now. Okay, I'm gonna fire. Fire. Wow. It fed through for the first time. I forgot to show you what it was doing before, but it was literally jamming the gun. This would not even feed up. And now, after a little bit of maneuvering, I got two 8-round magazines for my Colt 1903 Pocket Hammerless. Cool. Just to show you, let's put them all in that aftermarket part. Make sure that it does feed more than twice. That the spring is functioning, that everything is functioning on it. As you can see, the ammo is being held in, so we got the distance right. Even though it's a little longer, it is holding the rear of that firearm of that right there. Put that in. You can see it might even be tighter. All right, so we're gonna charge, fire, charge, fire. These snap caps like to, they're plastic, so they like to catch in there. Fire. Look at that. It's got to be quick. Fire. Fire. Oh, that's it. All right. Cool. Okay, so now that we have this aftermarket magazine fixed, it feels like it functions correctly and everything will work smoothly when I end up using a real round in here. And I know you're probably wondering, why does this all matter? Well, the truth is, if you have a persuader that's malfunctioning or jamming because of an aftermarket part, you are going to end up in a situation you don't want to be in. A jam could be dangerous for you or anyone else around you if it's constantly happening. In a defensive situation, you know, if a zombie is around or you ever need to use a persuader for protecting yourself, hopefully not, hopefully you use your words first, but if you ever come to that situation, you don't want a round jamming on you. So hopefully that never happens, but in my case, I like going to the range and I like loading less and shooting more, so that's what this is to me. Anyways, hopefully you enjoyed this. You know, like, subscribe, comment, let me know if you learned a few things, and hopefully you did. But thanks for watching.